welcome to the third and final part of Reach the World, the Seventh-day Adventist Church's global strategic plan. Today we're dealing with Reach Out with God. Here's your host, Pastor Mike Ryan.
Welcome back to our ongoing series on Reach the World. Reach the World is the strategic plan of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And our special guest today is Gary Krause. Gary, welcome.
Thank you.
I know you direct Adventist Mission, and that is a very large operation with a major focus. When we talk about Reach Out, which we're talking about today, what has to be one of the main components of Reach Out?
Well, number one, it has to be a holistic ministry based on Jesus' example, and I would think that our focus needs to be on starting new groups of believers. Okay.
Now, that's an interesting statement, because obviously we don't have a department in the World Church that just is focused on establishing new groups. So who all needs to be involved in that?
Well, you know, we have so many different ministries of the church. We have departments, we have services, we have different activities. Then every one of those can be involved in starting new congregations. We need them all.
So you're saying that it's a church-wide movement?
Yeah, I mean, we're not there just to tread water. We're there to have a focus to work together to build God's kingdom, and we do that by starting new groups of believers.
Yeah, and probably key to that would be the lay people are the foundation of the involvement.
Well, every church member is a minister.
Yeah.
We are all called for service. We're all disciples, which means that we're not just warming the pews, we are involved in some sort of ministry.
Now, I know that Adventist Mission is instrumental each year in establishing between probably 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 new churches or groups per year.
Yes.
And so you start figuring that per day, that's quite a bit.
Well, last year a new church was established every 3.5 hours, plus companies and groups, but established churches, which was a record year.
Yeah, I think it was a record year. Yeah. I don't think we've ever had that many churches planted. So, yeah, you know, you know, I know the Lord has blessed you and your team on that. I know that Adventist Mission also carries on special ministries that contributes to this church planting, to this reach out, to the methodology. What are those ministries?
Well, one of the focuses is on mission to the cities, and so we are sponsoring, encouraging, supporting centers of influence. These are urban centers that put Christ's method of ministry into practice, where we connect with the people, we win their confidence, and we lead them to Jesus.
Okay, I was hoping to hear that Christ method defined a little bit.
Yeah.
And that really is very successful.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things going on, Gary?
Well, we have global mission pioneers who are lay people, who are church planters.
And I think you brought some graphics on this,
Yeah,
didn't you?
we have pictures of global mission pioneers. We have thousands of these around the world, and these are not highly trained, seminary-educated people. These are lay people who get a basic training, and they go among their own cultural groups to plant a new group of believers in a new area.
Yeah, and I have been out to visit with them, and sometimes you visit with them, and they're just Christian, humble people, and you go, it's a miracle that they have been able to enter in and to put a group here.
Well, you're right. They've started places, new congregations where we've never had churches before because nobody told them they couldn't do it.
Yeah. What about some of the areas of the world that are very, very unentered?
You know, I mentioned the cities before. That has to be central. And of course, we find cities all over, but particularly in the 1040 window, that area of Northwest Africa that stretches through the Middle East into Asia, where the majority of the world's population live and the fewest Christians. Tremendous challenge.
I know that Reach Out is an area that the Seventh-day Adventist Church has an A+ in. We are masters at creating methods, and Adventist Mission plays a major role in that. Gary, I just want you to know that the World Church prays for you and your team as you consider this.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you very much for being part of this program and helping set the stage for Reach Out.
Privilege.
Reach the World has an emphasis on reach out. Now, we've talked about reach up and reach in, but reach out. And you know, Seventh-day Adventists, they are experts at creating methods. And I'm happy about that. We have a lot of methods in the church. Our special guest is Howard Feigl. You know, Howard, I think I first knew you in 1976 or 77 when they had the new LMS building, the Literature Ministry building in Cebu, Philippines.
Right.
and you happened to be there, and we were there enjoying that together. You have been involved in the publishing work since I can remember. How many years?
At this moment, it's 41 years.
41 years.
Yes, publishing, since I was a literature evangelist.
Yes, and of course the literature distribution is one of the major methods on reaching out.
Exactly.
And that's not a human idea, but that actually comes from a divine source of inspiration telling us that that's what we should be about.
That should be.
I want to know, what are some of the programs that people can expect to hear about in the next 5 years on Reach Out and Reach the World strategic plan?
Well, thank you, Mike. The Publishing Ministries Department is, I believe, designed by God for a very specific purpose at this time. And we base all our strategies on the foundation of what he has said. Let me share with you one quotation.
Okay.
It says here, the great and wonderful work of the last gospel message is to be carried on now as it has never been before. The world is to receive the light truth through an evangelizing ministry of the word in our books and periodicals. Our publications are to show that the end of all things is at hand. Let our literature give the message as a witness to the world. And then she continued, church members were to sell or give away literature. So with this foundation, we created our strategies.
Okay. Now,
3 things that came to mind in our strategy is the sharing ministry,
okay,
the selling ministry, and the social media ministry.
now you brought some pictures with you, didn't you?
I think so.
Okay, let's have those up on the sharing ministry. Tell me about that.
In the sharing ministry, we have designed 2 special projects, and that is the missionary book of the year.
Yes.
Every year, we publish a book that is to be circulated by the church members worldwide. In fact, the latest one 2 years ago was the Great Controversy, and the whole worldwide church distributed about 140 million copies.
Yes.
That is, as besides the 26 million downloads from website.
Sure, sure.
So the impact of this is felt by the world church.
And so, of course, the call is for every member to be involved. You want every member to be sharing that literature.
Exactly.
Okay.
According to the Council of Ellen White, every believer is called upon by God to share this literature.
We've got about 60 seconds left. Tell me about the selling ministry.
In the selling ministry, we have encouraged all the members who are willing to participate in a literature evangelism, which is the selling. In other words, be a literature evangelist, either full-time, part-time,
Sure.
or students.
How many do we have in the world?
Right now, by the grace of God, we have close to 50,000 literature evangelists worldwide.
How important is technology in the distribution of literature?
Mike, that is our great focus during the next quinquennium, technology. Because right now everybody has a cell phone, and last Sabbath we just presented a beta project of the apps, and we are going to probably this week we will be able to put something much better, and in a matter of 3 months probably we have it all working together.
Howard, I know that soul winning is the focus of all of these distributions.
Exactly.
And our time is finished, but I want to thank you for coming and sharing this with the world field. Thank you for being our guest.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be in this ministry.
Welcome back to our ongoing series on Reach the World, a strategic plan for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Our special guest is Jonathan Duffy. And Jonathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Right now, we're talking about Reach Out. Is there anything that Adventists are better at?
I don't think there is. I think Adventists are superb at reaching out.
I believe they are. Now, you are the director for what we refer to as ADRA. Now, what does ADRA mean?
You know, I'm with you a little bit on that, Mike. I think that a lot of people talk about ADRA, but they don't know what ADRA actually stands for.
Yes.
ADRA is the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, and I think it's time we started to say the word rather than the acronym.
Yes.
We are development. That means that we help people in a sustainable way to create new lives, and when things are most broken in the cases of emergency and disaster, we are also present.
How many countries are you in?
We're in 139 countries.
Roughly how many people are involved in that you actually are using in a ministry?
6,000 people, 15,000 volunteers, and globally we impact around 22 million people a year.
Okay, and so that gives a little bit of the scope to the viewers. Let me come specifically to the point that I think we're both interested in. I think we know that as we think about Reach Out, that we have been instructed to use Christ's method alone. And just a quick review of that, how do you define Christ's method?
Well, Christ's method is he mingled with the people as one who desired their good. He met their needs, and then he bade them follow me. Okay. Now, obviously, we are a church of 18 million, a family of maybe 30 million. What message do we want to give them? I mean, when we think of Christ's method, you as the person who is leading in this touching of life, what do we want to leave with them? Well, you know, I think there's a lot to be proud about in ADRA. You know, we have brought water to people who were thirsty. We've brought food to people who were starving. We've helped them with sustainable livelihoods. We've changed lives, 22 million lives. But rather than have 18.5 million people proud of an agency, I would prefer to see 18.5 million Adventists who are willing to be agents of hope and healing rather than being proud of one agency.
How happy I am to hear you. In other words, you should have actually 18 or 19 million people working for ADRA.
Exactly. And look, you know, ADRA does what it does because of the generous support of the Adventists. And also the prayers. Prayers are very important to me. But, you know, at times it is easier to pray that a poor friend's needs might be met than to meet them.
Okay.
And sometimes we use prayer as an excuse for not doing something.
We've got just a little more than a minute left, and I want you to touch a little bit. We have some guy watching this program. Some lady is watching this program right now, and they're going, wow, that's a great idea. How do they get started?
I think you get started by actually opening your eyes and looking around the community and seeing what the needs are. It's got to be a needs-driven thing. You know, it said that Christ met their needs. And so look around, see what's needed, and be willing to be available and make a difference. And it doesn't have to be highly skilled, but we can all make a difference in someone's lives. We can all reach out and touch someone in need and bring them to healing.
Probably the biggest challenge in the church is to get a piece of people's time.
Very true. Very true. But you know what I find is people are willing to give their time to make a difference in others. And I have never lacked for volunteers within ADRA.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, this is such an important ministry. There's so much that could be said on this. And I think it's an area that we need to look at. Some of the data tells us that we're not very good at that. We tend to want to preach a little more than we want to actually go out and touch people. Yep. But notice the name of this plan is Reach the World.
Yes, and ADRA is the sowing arm which prepares the way.
Jonathan, I want to thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you.
Reach Out, part of Reach the World, it calls for the involvement of every person. Our very special guest right now is Pastor Dowell Chow, who is the director for Adventist World Radio. And Pastor, tell me, when did Adventist World Radio begin?
In 1971.
Okay.
We started out in Portugal on a rented station to reach the then Soviet Union and North Africa and the Middle East.
All right, and right now, how big is AWR?
Big in terms of languages. We have on shortwave around 80 languages, between 70 and 80, it changes all the time. And on podcasts...
Is there any place on earth it doesn't go?
No, we cover every inch of the earth.
Okay.
It's not the problem of covering the earth, it's the problem of the people having the resource to receive the signal in the language they speak.
Okay. Now, of course, we are talking today about Reach Out.
Yes.
And of course, Adventist World Radio that we call AWR. This is a very, very important part of that Reach Out. Because it goes places where we can't go.
That's right. That's true.
And of course, you said the very first radio station that they established, it was for that purpose.
That's right.
And tell me, what are some of the other places that we are reaching into that we just have never been there before? Some of the more current ones.
The most current ones we have right now is you take all the countries of Central Asia.
Okay.
They call them the stand countries.
Yes.
Even though we don't have production in all the languages of these countries individually, we have in the Russian language. They all speak Russian.
Okay.
Those countries are being reached, but the most recent one is Bhutan.
Okay.
And Tibet.
Sure. Well, that's what we're about. Now, I want to come very quickly. It comes down to what can people do to be involved in Adventist World Radio? What tools does Adventist World Radio have that can help them become involved?
Well, the first thing, people who want to support it, pray. I think prayer is one of the most important things that we need. But also we have different devices.
Yeah, I saw these laying on the table, and I was going to ask you, can people use these?
Of course. This one was made in China, of course, and it's used in China by the Chinese brethren. This is an MP3 player, no sound to it, no speakers, on purpose.
Okay.
They have to put a little earpiece in it so they can hear it quietly.
Okay.
On the streets or wherever they are. This is reaching millions of people. They developed this little radio. It's an FM radio, but it's also a player. It has the message, complete message on this thing.
Okay.
They're deploying this by the thousands.
Now, when you talk about complete message, what are we talking about?
Bible studies.
Everything is on there.
Lectures. The whole Bible in Mandarin.
Are there people who play that and have people gather around and listen?
They do. They do. Just quickly listen to this.
I recognize the language.
We do. Besides being a radio, it's also an MP3 player.
Okay.
So this is marvelous.
All right. Very good. And what is in this one?
This came.
Oh, that came from out of there. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Now let me just ask: is someone watching the program today? How can they get a hold of these pieces of equipment? How can they become involved in Adventist World Radio besides praying? And certainly they can send money.
Of course they can.
But how can they take these tools and get started?
There are many ways we can do this, Mike. We have the radios they can purchase and share, but they also can establish the local powered FM stations in their own communities.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Share the message. We have the resources we can offer them, and we hope they will use that method to reach the people in their own environment. So that's many ways. That's another way you can do to reach the people across this world.
Pastor Chow, I want to thank you for being our guest today.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome back to our ongoing series on Reach the World. Reach the World is the strategic plan for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And we are honored, while we talk about Reach Out, to have Elder Robert Costa here as our guest. Welcome.
Thank you very
Elder
much.
Costa. I'm just happy you're here. I know that you are the coordinator for the worldwide evangelism program for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, when I talk about evangelism program, often we define that as public evangelism, where we hold meetings. And I wanted to ask you, how important is that ministry to the Reach Out program?
I think it's the heart of the mission of the church.
Of course, I would expect you to say that.
And I expect that every member, every pastor become an evangelist, because we are in the task of sharing the good news to other people.
Absolutely. And now I know that as we have taken a look at this worldwide, we're very interested to make that proclamation message. And we began in New York City.
That's correct.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That great initiative from the General Conference and every division, everybody went to New York, 2013. Evangelists from all over the world. They hold 400 evangelistic series in one city, and the result was amazing, because just one conference, they used to organize 3 to 4 churches per year. Now they organize more than 30 churches that year. Yeah. That means that people are responding in the big cities because the message is appealing to the heart. That's a message that comes from the heart of God to the heart of the people.
Well, I was going to ask you, what is the ongoing result of NY13? Do we still see the result taking place today?
Absolutely, the churches, they got on fire. That was at the beginning of the wheels moving, and now they are working a comprehensive way, and they learn to work together. In big cities, sometimes that's difficult, but now they are working together. They are focusing on the mission of the church, and that is really encouraging.
I also know that there was a major initiative put forward in Cebu, Philippines, and a program where Christ's method was used. Just describe a little bit so people can catch an idea what they might do.
Yeah, evangelism is more than just to stand up and to preach. I believe that there's a lot of pre-work to have to do. If we follow Jesus' method alone, the results are much better. And then the hospital, the schools, pastors, literate evangelists, everybody preparing the soil in 8 months in advance.
Okay.
And then the results of the meeting were amazing. I spent 15 pastors in the baptistry baptizing for more than 2 hours. I was so tired, so I baptized you in the name of for more than 2 hours, and the pastors were doing an excellent exercise for more than 2 hours. Was amazing.
That is thrilling, and it comes as such terrific news to our people. It's encouraging to hear that kind of report. You know, I know that the public evangelism, it has a website.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that so people can get on, see what's going on.
Yes, I want to invite the people to visit gcevangelism.com. And then we put there brand new resources. I said brand new graphics. There's not a graphic from the Pacific Press or Review and Herald. It's a brand new graphic, contemporary graphic, multi-ethnics. They're open text, so that means they may translate into any language, and they are editable. And they're multicultural, and we want to provide those materials for free for the people.
Okay, so people who check onto that website,
that's correct,
they can look and see what resources are available for them.
Exactly, and the plan, we have 3 volumes now, and the next week or so there will be a 4th volume, and the plan is to have 2 new volumes of brand new sermons every year for free for the people to download it and to preach the good news of Jesus.
You know, I can't appeal enough to the people to get on that website and find something that you can do. Pastor Costa, I want to thank you for being our guest today.
God bless you.
Reach the World must involve a multitude of ministries. Our special guest, Elder Brad Thorpe, Candace Thorpe. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It seems a little strange that I would be on this side and you would be on that side. I think you've done a little more interviewing on this television program than I have. But you know, we're talking about Reach the World, right, and the part of Reach the World called Reach Out. And of course the Hope Channel, if you go back in its history, you know, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 25 years ago, Hope Channel was not really anything that was very dynamic, but today it is a global program. How important is world television to reach out?
Incredibly important. Our whole society has shifted in the direction of digital communication, which is delivered in a lot of different medias. And unless we have the visual media that is done by the production of TV, there is a self-authenticating factor to television. People believe what they see, and we need to be able to communicate our message out to the world in the most succinct, visual, attractive way possible so that people see and they can decide for themselves.
Absolutely. Candace, how many countries are we in? What are the languages that we're broadcasting in? How many recording studios? Give me a little picture.
Okay, well, we have actually 36 channels that we're broadcasting 24 hours a day, and that's on the internet, over satellite, cable stations, and we're broadcasting in 34 languages. We have 12 more channels, Mike, in development.
Okay.
So basically what we're seeing is an extraordinary opening of sharing the gospel, of reaching out in a way that reaches past closed doors in those tall buildings in the big cities to the hearts and homes of people where they're most sensitive to the gospel.
Yes, and I know that Hope Channel, it represents a multitude of methods. You're not just having one method.
No.
Well, describe what you're programming, just the big picture.
The programming is intended to help set the brand, if you please, of the gospel message. We want programming that is holistic. We want programs that are for the community. We want programs that are Christ-centered. We want people to know that we're a people of prayer, that we are people of deep Bible study. So the total programming is contextualized in each particular channel in the respective language that it represents. So in the context of whether it's Indonesia or Malawi or wherever, people are seeing it in their own context.
Sure, and you know, as I've watched it and become acquainted. I mean, you have children's programs, you have health programs, you have cooking programs, you have preaching, you've got, you know, I mean, so it's not just one thing that we're talking about.
But those
here.
fundamental categories help people to understand the holistic, practical application of the biblical Adventist message in these end times.
What can Seventh-day Adventist members watching this program do to become involved in the Hope Channel ministry?
They need to talk about it. They need to just share that Hope Channel's there. Share their favorite program. You know, this isn't like, I may not feel like I can go out and give a Bible study, but certainly maybe I can invite somebody into my home to watch one of the best, most vibrant Bible studies there is out there. So just share it, talk about it, reach out by sharing Hope Channel.
And the social media is becoming increasingly important.
Oh, yeah.
The TV's channels, the cable networks, working to get it distributed in the country according to the way that people receive television in their area, and particularly in first world countries, which is is quickly becoming global. The internet with the social media, the apps, all of these links to programs that people are specifically interested in.
If we're going to be in touch with the world and reach them, we have to be in touch with digital media.
Absolutely.
We could spend quite a bit of time just talking about the miraculous growth of the Hope Channel. From when it began just a few years ago to what it's doing today is unbelievable.
And with your strong support and assistance, Mike, thank you for what you've done.
We won't get too much on that, but I want to thank you guys for providing leadership to this as we take a look at this important strategic plan, Reach the World, Reach Out. The Hope Channel is vital to that. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching this three-part series on Reach the World, the Seventh-day Adventist Church's strategic plan. But you know, the church can make the best and most effective plans in the world, but the only way we're going to fulfill our prophetic mission is if every church member gets involved. So please think about what you can do to help reach the world.